Hi, I'm Catherine Bybee, and I'm coming to you straight from sunny San Diego, California. I'm going to bring you inside of my home today. You know, when Amazon came to me and they asked me to do one of these authors at home videos, I thought I was in an absolutely wonderful and unique position to be able to talk about what it feels like to be a person that works from home all the time. Some of you in America with this national lockdown are working from home for the first time. You've got toddlers underfoot, which I have been thinking a lot about you guys. Those of you who are homeschooling, I honestly can't even tell you what that looks like, because when I had young children in my home, they were in school, so that was nice. And I will say that it's a lot more difficult to work in an environment that you're not familiar with. I'm usually alone. I'm always on deadline. I am 3.5 months between books as a rule in terms of turning them around, somewhere between 3.5 to 4.5 months. And so I'm always on deadline, and I always have to get stuff done. And I usually put myself in my own isolation a good 3 to 4 weeks right before my deadline is done. I talk to my neighbors and I encourage them to see me if they see me looking pretty haggard and wearing pajamas and not looking like a human being, to please throw chocolate and wine, which I've been watching a lot of social media and I think a lot of you can relate to. Okay, it's now time for me to put on the glasses so I can answer a couple of reader questions that came out. Perrin asks, or says first, I'm in love with the Creek Canyon series. When did you decide to write a fictional series on something that impacted you so personally, and why? How did I decide to write it? Well, I see no reason to reinvent the wheel. If something dramatic, and important has happened in your life, why not pull from it? I also felt like I needed to give the guys that were on my property for as long as they were their own story in one way or another. It is hard to write a personal story and make it fictional. That was it was very difficult to write that, but very fulfilling in the end. How do you stay energized when working from home? Well, one of the things I didn't talk about when I was talking about my routine is exercise. I stay energized by working out, and I know that sounds California cliche, but it's true. I actually have some workout equipment up in my office, so if I'm actually up there for one reason or another and I'm staring at the exercise equipment and I'm watching the blinking cursor and I can't figure out why I'm not getting anything done, I jump on that bike or I get my weights out or whatever it is, and that kind of helps just stir the juices up. So that is really important. And I will say, when I'm on really tight deadlines, I spend a lot of time just doing really well or trying really well to eat right. Because if I'm reading a lot of junk food, I laugh about the chocolate and the wine, and I think towards the last days I am doing that towards the end of a book. But trying to eat right, it's kind of important, and then your brain just doesn't fuzz up. Who was your favorite male lead, Jack or Blake? And she's talking about two different heroes in two different series, right? Wife by Wednesday and Not Quite Dating. Who's my favorite? If any of them want to step up to the plate, they'll be my favorite right now. What is the hardest book for you to write, and why? And I have to say, it's the one that's out now. And I'm not just saying that because it happens to be the book that's on sale today. It was because the background of the story was so very personal to me. So there's that one. Is there anything you can tell us about the stories that you have in the works? Okay, well, I am always a few books in the queue is what I call it. So I actually have all 3 of the books in the series at the publisher in some various stage of editing and publishing. So those are all done. But I am writing a story that kind of got prompted from the last of the First Wives series, Say It Again. When Sasha's book came out, I had a character kind of just evolve. Her name is Claire. And I'm working on Claire. Claire and her guy. I'll leave it at that, otherwise there's just way too many spoilers. This is where I chose to do the video because the light is in front of me and you can see my face. This is my kitchen. And yes, I love my chandeliers, but this isn't always where I write. Let me show you where I really write. This is where I write. This would be the couch that I choose to write most of the time, because if I turn this around, you would see a beautiful ocean out there, and I am blessed enough to see it today. So this is one of the first places that I write. Let me show you another one. This is my home office. It's got all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, too bright, too bright, too bright. Let me turn it around. You might recognize those books. Perhaps that's me. And of course, everybody else's books. Why? Because I'm a reader first. I'm a writer second. I'm going to read an excerpt from My Way to You. Parker, my heroine, and Colin Hudson, my hero, have just met for the first time. With the shotgun over her shoulder, she walked the long path to the other side of the property and used a remote to open the gate so Mr. Hudson could drive inside. The white public works truck had a light bar on top and all the fancy stickers on the door. If Colin Hudson was a Ted Bundy wannabe, he was going through some serious efforts to appear otherwise. He stepped out of his truck and lowered his sunglasses enough to look over the rim. "I can come back later," he said, looking at the gun. Scout ran around his feet, demanding attention. "It's for snakes, Mr. Hudson. Are you a snake?" My junior high school girlfriend said I was. Parker tried not to smile. The grin on his face said she'd failed. "We kill 5 or 6 rattlers every year, a requirement of living this close to Mother Nature." "You shoot them?" "I usually use a flathead shovel, but that's a little harder with all the rocks." "You use a shovel?" "If you tell me you're going to be one of those save the snake people, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." He shook his head. Amusement danced in his eyes. "Nope, hate snakes. Shoot 'em, have fun." He was teasing her. Parker called the dog and turned and walked away, confident that Mr. Hudson was following her. "You can see the burn line," she stated. "That's your house?" "Yeah, from the midpoint of the wash, there's still a good 500 yards from the base of the driveway and the slope of the actual house. Looks like the fire came close. Took out the fence 6 feet from the east side." "Were you here?" She blinked, pictured the flames, felt the heat of them, the smell of them. "We were." He was quiet for a minute. When she looked up, she found those kind eyes searching hers. "The house doesn't look like it's going to be in any danger of taking on mud." Parker pushed away the memories of flames. "I'm not concerned about my house that my house is going to float away. It's the damage to the property and the lack of being able to get in and out." She pointed to the culverts that were under the Arizona crossing through the wash. "I've seen these culverts fill up. When they do, it takes a lot of work to get them clear. We park a car on the other side of the wash and use the footbridge, but doing that for long periods of time is a royal pain." He cocked his head to the side and stared at her. "How long have you lived here?" She opened her mouth to answer and saw Austin driving his car down the long drive. He rolled down the window as both she and Mr. Hudson stepped to the side. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Will's house." "When are you coming home?" Austin looked at the man standing beside her. "I don't know. Who's this?" Parker didn't bother with his name. Austin wouldn't care. "He's with the city." "County," he corrected her. She waved him off. He's here to look at the wash." Her brother gave a single nod. "Cool." He switched his eyes to hers. "We haven't seen a single snake since the fire." Parker moved the weapon from one hand to the other. "Doesn't mean they're not out there." "Whatever." He started to roll up his window. "Call if you're staying the night." "I will." "If you're drinking, stay there, or call me." Austin rolled his eyes. "Yes, Mom." She laughed. Austin didn't drink that often, and when he did, he told her about it. The courts would take custody away in a heartbeat if Austin was starting to get into any real trouble. None of them wanted that, especially this close to Austin's 18th birthday. She stepped out of the way of the car as he drove past. "He's not really your son, right?" Colin's question made her pause. "I'm pretty sure I look like crap right now, but I doubt I look old enough to be his mother." "He called you Mom." It was her turn to roll her eyes. "Older sister." "So this is your parents' house?" He seemed relieved with the information, like a weight had been lifted from his brain. "Was. Our parents died 2 years ago. So if I seem a little paranoid," she lifted the gun as if paranoid was written on the barrel, "it's because I'm responsible for taking care of him and my sister." And that's all she wanted to say about that. "Now, tell me about the wash and what you can do to control the mud." Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me in my home as you learned about my process, where I do my work, where I don't do my work. And remember, all of the stuff that we're going through right now, it's going to end eventually. And when it does, we are all going to be so much more thankful for those filled up freeways and coworkers that we actually miss. So hang in there. We're in this together. We'll get through it together.